Hello, everybody. Glad you could join us for episode number 48 of the Launch and Beyond podcast, a podcast designed to support you not only achieving great success in your business, but in all other areas of life as well. Trust. How important is it? Many would say that trust is the most important business and brand asset you can manage, especially in relationships with customers, clients, employees, and stakeholders. Your clients' and customers' willingness to deal with you, buy from you, and continue to seek out your products and services is in large part proportional to the level of trust they have in you. Research shows that businesses and brands with the highest levels of consumer and customer trust generally correlate with greater revenues and greater profit margins. But what reputation a brand or business may have taken years to build up can be lost overnight if a violation of trust occurs. In this week's episode, the first of a two-part series on trust entitled Establishing Trust, we discuss the essential steps you need to honour in the hearts and minds of your clients and customers before they will engage in you. And interestingly, some of the principles apply also in areas of life outside of your business. We hope you enjoy it. So good morning, Adam. This is going to be a great topic for us to talk about today. Trust. We've alluded to it over many of our podcast episodes, and this one specifically, I think we're going to deep dive into it. Part one of two parts, which I'm really excited to talk about too.
Well, it's a great way to start off the year, talking about trust, how you build trust with your client base, and building trust in yourself, and how you can reaffirm all these relationships that we've had in past years and grow new ones.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a reflective point, but it's a way to build on that.
Yeah. Well, like you said, in terms of trust, we're start of year, and in a lot of ways, trust is the start of a relationship. It has to be the foundational pillar or principle on which everything's built on. Otherwise, you can't keep progressing well, or you will progress, but somehow it's kind of going to be like a game of snakes and ladders, where you'll be making progress, but you'll give all that up because you don't have that foundational pillar, which is the trust. So really, this first episode, and then continuing on with the next one, this first episode will really be about the process of getting to trust and why it's important, and what it takes for people to get to the point where they trust you. And why that's important is because, it's trust is probably a difficult thing to define, but when you've lost it. When it's been compromised. And so this is really going to help people have a blueprint or a step-by-step process on how to go about building trust, particularly in the initial way.
Yep, and no better way to start a year and a lot of people just start the new year going, new year, new me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great way to start your new year, new you, by building trust and rethinking about how important trust is in relationships, whether or not it's business or personal relationships.
So I want to focus on why trust is important, right? Because before we go into and launch into some specific content, why is trust important? Well, number one, it makes people feel safe. So when you've got trust in a friendship, in a group, you feel safety. Your guard's down, or you can then connect better with somebody. So that's really important in that regard. Number two, when you trust someone, there's less fear and apprehension that's going on. So you're coming into this situation, whether it's a professional relationship or personal relationship, with less fear and apprehension. And so consequently, you connect with them on a heart level a lot more. So that's a go. Number three, it cements a relationship and allows people to work together more harmoniously, right? Whether it's a work relationship or a home relationship, it's really important. And number four, importantly, this goes back to biologically what we want is to be part of groups. And so when you have trust, you open yourself up to being a part of a group and belonging in a group or a community. So they're important. We've talked about it in a previous episode, where the exclusion of individual outside of a group, particularly in the animal world, but even previously, was akin to not being safe. So having the support of the group is safety and trust. So to be part of that, you've got to be trustworthy. So they're the cardinal pillars upon which, or reasons why, trust is important as a concept.
Yep. I feel that every time I travel, when I'm like, I just want to go home, and when I come home, it's because I trust my surroundings. I know everything, and I'm in a state of comfort because I've done these things a million times. I get to see my family, and there's the trust, and I'm not worrying, is someone going to pickpocket me here, or like there's a trust in my environment. So I always feel more safe, as you outlined here. But yeah, trust comes from many different parts. It's not just human to human. Trust can be trust in surroundings, and that's where you get into your comfort zone and you feel safe. And then that means you have the ability, once you feel safe, to start creating something that's strong and magical.
Yeah. And you're right in that there's a process, because anything that's new, you don't have the familiarity and you don't have the references to say, this is good for me, this is a safe environment. And interestingly, a lot of very shrewd business people, when they're bringing you into, when you're introducing them to your environment, it was always told to us, particularly from my coaches in the past, was familiarity is really important. So whenever someone comes into your business, your work role, whatever, familiarize them with the layout, familiarize them with the people. That goes a long way into making them feel safe. Because if you just go in and launch into what you do, irrespective of what you're saying, in the background of someone's mind, they're going, okay, where are the exits? Where's going on? And I know myself, like, when I go to a restaurant, funny as it sounds, this is built into me. I always go, where are the exits? Where are the, where, like, I map it out really quickly, right? That's just, it's always been built in to me. I always go, I never take a seat with my back to the door. I always do that, scope it all out. Call it a reconnaissance mission. But I always know that provides safety for me. So at any one time, I've got a layout of what's going on. I know where the exits are. I know where everything is, and that allows me to calm myself down. So if you put yourself in the mind of a consumer who's walking into your business with that mindset, can you see how important it is that you familiarize them with the layout so that they feel calmer?
Yeah. That's like when you come into our workplace, we do inductions, and that's because we have heavy machinery and we've got a lot of automated machinery. If you don't know how to use it, it can be scary. So we don't expect everyone to be able to use everything straight off. We go and sit down, teach them about it. We let them see other people using the machine, so then they get that confidence and that trust in the machine and then in the process. So they don't feel like they're an outsider anymore. They start to feel a part of that whole process. And then we have the evacuation procedures everywhere as well. Like I'm not one that doesn't plaster heaps of notes. Like, notes are everywhere. Hygiene, our beards need to be no longer than 2 mil, all this stuff. But then that means that everyone who walks in knows what's expected and there's trust in the system.
Yeah.
So, and then
that's important.
In the same return, if someone breaks that trust, you go, well, it's everywhere here. Then we can have that open and honest conversation, because we've got the rules for the establishment, and every day they come in and they abide by the rules, is that trust is ongoing. And that's the next podcast, which is maintaining trust. But this is the establishment of it. So let's bring it back.
Let's go into that. No, you're spot on, Adam. That's really, really important, because there's so many layers to this. And a lot of the times, what is it that defines a buying relationship? And we're talking about it specifically within business and in someone seeking to work with you specifically, because that's the subcategory of areas that we're working in, but it's got applications in other areas as well. So if you can take these factors in mind and incorporate those, I think it'll go a long way into you being able to establish trust with people you want to work with, and it'll happen faster as well. So there are certain things that people need to know, need to have established before they can get to the point where they trust you. And we've outlined 7 points that are very, very important and that will assist and help out. And as always, we always reference this. We've got show notes that will make this process much easier for you. So if you want to sit back, relax, listen to the concept, and then refer back to the notes, that would work out really, really well. So the first step in establishing trust that we've got to be cognizant of is the fact that people don't know who you are. Let's just assume that you're in a business and you are marketing or just putting up your shingle and trying to get things going, by and large, most people don't know who you are and what you stand for. So what's really, really important here is establishing the areas of subject matter, becoming a subject matter expert. How do you become known in that space? Number two, how do people get to know about what it is that you do? Number three, how is it that people can understand a little bit about you specifically? Because I think we've mentioned many, many times before in the podcast, people don't buy the message until they buy the messenger. So that you're really selling you in a lot of ways. Yes, you're selling a service or a product, but fundamentally, why should people go past everybody else and choose you other than price? That may be one factor, but why deal with you? And so I think that's really, really important. And in this day and age, the number one area that trumps most is social proof. And by social proof, the best way that you know that that's happening is through referrals. And so when we talk about trust, the important thing is if I refer you to go to my hair, I was going to say my hairdresser, but it's not really applicable for me these days, to a restaurant, right? I'm staking my reputation on that. And so what's happening is that you may not know anything about this restaurant, but there's a transference of trust. I trust you, I trust your judgment, so I'm going to give that a go. And so that's how someone, they may not know you, but someone else knows you, your products, your services, and you can leverage that relationship, that trust, and transfer it to somebody else.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Like when I get the reps come in through the business and they're talking about new products and stuff like this, or I inquire about a product and they go, oh, well, we've got a few options. I go with your option. I trust you. And you can see when you say that their mind flips and it's like now they've got ownership on the decision. It's not selling the best price product. It's what's best for the application because there is that trust in there. And I find that I always get a better result when I say I trust you in this process because people start taking ownership of what they're doing. That's in the business situation. But also, like, for instance, you're saying in a social way, at trade shows, when I walk around, just because I know one guy, I'm in with the next guy, you know? And it means that just because it's like the high school thing, just because we're cool, you're cool by association type thing. And I find it's really clicky. And I've always said, I don't want to do business people don't do business with people they don't like. So you've got to establish that trust. And as you said, social media in the show notes, social media is a big part of this. When Instagram went from just photos to putting little snippets of videos and stories, people started seeing the real person behind that Instagram account. It's one thing to put that highly polished version, but when you're standing with your phone and just doing a selfie and like talking into it for 10, 15 seconds, people started to learn who you were. And they were starting to buy your message more.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. That's how people will get to know you. And you're right. In this day and age of social media, you got more scope to go from zero or scratch and have people understand who you are and what you stand for than any other time that I can recall. So it's a great opportunity to leverage that. But remember that people need to know you because now quite often you are the brand. And a lot of people are developing their own personal brand as a means of people getting to know them so that they can trust them because they know who they are and what they stand for. So that's a really important one. So that's step one. All right, so step two is really about establishing trust within your company. And the reality is they may know you personally, but they don't know anything about your company. So this is where your business and company profile becomes important as well. You know, this is where we talked about social proof. And, you know, this is where Google reviews these days come into play so many times. So what often people would consider, we use a restaurant example before, let's use it again. A lot of times you're in a neighborhood, you don't know what's going on. You're thinking, should I go there? Should I not? What do most people do these days?
Just check the reviews.
Check the reviews. And so consequently, that's a social proof to go, okay, I can trust, you know, or it might have been this person and three mates who have done these reviews. But when you've got 1,000 reviews and they're all positive, you can pretty much buy into the fact that, okay, this is obviously a great place to go and eat. So you're more likely to go and do that. So that's where the company profile is used as a means of establishing a transference of trust for people to engage with you.
Yeah.
Right. So very, very important in that regard. So number one, getting people to know who you are and what you stand for. Number two, about your company. And really, this is the extension of that. This is the one that I think in this day and age I'm seeing more and more happen is if they don't know what your company stands for, they're less likely to want to support. You know, how many times do you hear people say, vote with your feet, vote with your dollars? If you don't like what the company's doing and standing for, then you can choose to use somebody else. And at a commercial level, it's really, really important. So if you understand what the company stands for, what principles it's known for, and what it does, what social causes that's involved in, that builds a lot of trust and brand and trust loyalty, I should say. So
one of the funny things with that one is there's 2 points I want to hit on. But firstly, the funny thing is a lot of companies I know do the charity work, but they don't promote it, right? So when they don't promote it, people are like, oh, we just give money to that company. They don't do anything with it. So there's some type of, now that you got social media, you do it, but you don't do it to gloat. You do it sort of, we are doing something with your dollars, and it's something for the positive like socially positive. But some people just miss that point. So it's okay to not gloat, but just promote what you're doing in your social aspect, because then it shows your followers or your supporters that you are doing stuff with the best intentions at heart.
Yep.
Second point was a lot of starting businesses and entrepreneurs, they don't come and start a business with a mission statement. One of my main things when I started my bread bakery was I wrote a mission statement and gave it to all our staff members and go, this is what we stand for. We want to make sure that the community is happy. We serve the best quality food that we can, and we move forward in this positive direction. And through that, hopefully we can influence more people and supply bread around Melbourne rather than just our suburb. And everyone got that mission statement, and we started moving forward with that. But first of all, my employees knew where our company stood. It wasn't just money, money, money. It was how do we best serve the community. Then secondly, they can push that mission statement out to the public. Now on a website, you can put a mission statement up there so people can read it. And then you type in the website and you go, oh, look, they've got a mission statement. That's different to a lot of small businesses. Not everyone has a mission statement. And then your potential clients can read through that, what you've written in there, and go, all right, now I've got a rough idea where this company stands. Hopefully they're as good as as they write in this.
Yeah.
And then through your social media avenues, this is, you know what, I say it, but I'm really terrible at conveying the message. But through social media, that's where you amplify what your mission statement is. So that way you've got your Google reviews, you've got your social media, what you want to put out. Then you've got your mission statement so anyone can read what you stand for.
Yeah.
And then you build trust that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to share two examples specifically at a corporate level where this is quite noticeable. So number one is in Starbucks. Starbucks, they became the first company to have universal community healthcare for all its employees. So they used their position to say, we look after our people. And so that helped build a level of trust within the organization. But even, you know, in terms of how people looked at that, whether you drink coffee or not, you can look at this and say, okay, well, that's a big commitment and an investment in your people. And that at a level builds trust. So you look at their retention models, their turnovers is actually quite low. So they're looking after people. So that builds trust within the organization. The second one is a company here in Australia that we're clients of. They're called Who Gives a Crap, right? They provide toilet paper.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
So
I've
toilet
seen
paper. Now in the recent pandemic, when we had the rush on toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
What happens is they honoured all their existing clients and customers, and so they looked after them first, which is really good. But part of the reason why we started using Who Gives a Crap is because they've got an environmental policy, which is fantastic, and they've got a commitment to donating 50% of their profits to the establishment of toilets.
Oh, wow.
Right. So they believe that everybody should have a right to have a clean toilet. And so to date, and they're only a new company, to date, they've donated, I think it's about $8.3 million
Well,
to the establishment of that. So we were on board for the product. We were on board in terms of how they went about it, and to know that they have got a social conscience. They're a social enterprise. They're doing something really good with that. That feels great to be a part of that. So we build trust in them, and we want to engage with them because of the virtue of what it is that they as their company stand for. So this is what I mean, where you can use this, you can do social good, and you can reinforce the relationship you have with your people because of the stuff that you do.
well, that's why I've recently shifted to drinking VBs, because now they're produced with 100% solar power.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. You're making, but this is, it's funny you say that, but it makes such a big difference, right? A lot of the investing that I've done is socially responsible investing as well. There's companies that only invest in enterprises that don't hurt, that there's no mining in, that doesn't hurt people. There's no ammunition or anything like that. And there's nothing that's bad for the world, for the earth, that exploits people. And these fund managers find companies like that. So same sort of thing. The only way they'll know about it is if you promote that this is we as a company, what we stand for. And then people do what you just said, is they put their dollars in causes or things that they believe in.
Yeah.
That's
not that I love the taste of VB, but you know what? It's a cleaner version of what's been produced. So,
but that's a version of investing, socially responsible investing that happens, and there's companies throughout the world, and there's ones that have got a really deep green focus, which is very protective, and then there's others that they only exclude certain things out of it as well. But there's the consciousness that you can put into your dollars as well.
And just want to put one thing out there.
Yeah.
As Australians, we don't drink Foster's, and VB is Victorian bitter, so our state's, beer. So just some clarifications there. When I don't like the state beer, it's not my favorite, but now because of that social aspect.
You're parochial Victorian.
Yeah, but that social aspect has helped me build trust in what the company stands for now. Used to be the hard man's beer, if you work hard, you can drink it. But now it's like, they're doing something for the planet, which I can get behind.
Okay. So good that you're getting behind a social cause.
You know what?
By drinking. I really I respect that.
Challenge starts Monday.
All right. So point number 4, if your company profile is something that people can buy into, that's going to be great. The fourth thing that will reinforce the level of trust is the other companies that you work with. So if you can establish, and if some of the companies that work with you are national brands, international brands, ones that people know and trust as well, and they're choosing to work with you, it's that same transference of trust, that social proof that I was talking about, that really helps. So you might look at this and say, okay, well, I'm just a small business. How can I don't have an international company, a multinational company as a client. Yeah, but you might deal with some of the most prominent people in your community who people trust, and provide services for those people. And they may provide testimonials for you who endorse you. You could be a car washing company, you could be whatever, but you've got people who are prepared to provide a testimonial for the products and services you provide. That builds trust. And so they, once again, are endorsing you by virtue of that testimonial. So that's really what that is. And anytime you see someone on a website put, preferred partner of, or associations with, or working with these people, that's what it is. It's just leveraging the branding that the other company has to get you to go, hey, I should pay attention here.
Yeah, I'll use a personal example. It's like me being a chef and then working for global brands like Mission Foods. And then my suppliers for my business for the bakery, they come up and they go, oh, you work for Mission Foods. Oh, is this something new or on the side? I go, no, I consult to them. But because Mission Foods is in 120 countries around the world, it's got brand recognition everywhere. So the second people see me in Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, always on that stand, they go, well, this guy's got something just because I got that association with that big brand. And then they build trust in me as a person, because they go, if this guy travels around the world with a global brand, his brand's got to have some juice behind it as well. So then they come in, with the approach that I'm a bigger person than what I am, because my business is rather small at the moment. But I find that it's an implied trust now because they've seen me everywhere else.
Yeah. So that's is exactly right, Adam. It's the social proof that you get by association of the people you work with, but then also the people who are happy to endorse you by virtue of a testimonial or something that lets them know how that you're trustworthy and you're worth working with. So that's very, very important in that regard. So point number 5 that builds trust for people is that they may not know your full range of products and services. That most times people may only trust you for the narrow scope of things, the solution that you provide for them, unaware that you may have a whole back catalog, a whole range of other services that are available. And only once you've established trust in that first area will you then be given permission to talk to them about the other range of products and services. So how many times, and I don't know if you've done this, I certainly have, where if I'm considering working with somebody, I'll give them a small run first and see how they handle that. And based on how they handle that, then I gain confidence and trust that they can deliver. So consequently, I go, okay, great. I've got another project here. Here it is. And that one may be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And so most people I know don't always lead with their best opportunity first. They quite often are testing the environment, particularly in a commercial sense. And if you've got one distributor, one manufacturer, one person that you've been engaging with, you want to try somebody else, you very rarely will shift your whole order across. You might give them a small run to test out, to see how they go. And then depending on that, then you'll obviously increase that process. Is that how you would do that as well?
Yeah, that's generally how I do it. Like currently in the process of changing over fruit suppliers. And one of the critical things is that we built trust with this company. They haven't done anything wrong. Oh, a little bit towards the end of last year. But they were the only ones at that point that could mix.
Yep, I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, so they were the only ones that could mix. Whereas now this new company is the first company I've seen that can mix, but they're coming better, like at us with a more aggressive price, which is better for us.
Yep.
But we go, just give us a box. If that sample comes back, but that box came back with the wrong cherries. So my dad's like, oh, savvy guy. He's like, the price point's good. He's like, can we get other cherries though? And I was like, yep. And we got the photos. Yep, these are the cherries that you're going to get, which is the current cherries that we use. They go, oh, there was a mix up. But if we didn't get that small sample, we wouldn't have known that. So moving forward, we're going to get another sample with the right cherries before we flip over completely. Yep. And I know that's just one box and we use tons a week, but if you can do it on a small scale like that, then we know you can ramp it up. It's a global brand, so it's not just someone. Again, that's the trust. Yep. It's a global brand, so I just get behind it. And the guy who's selling it to me, he was my customer who brought me on to do the fruitcakes at Riviana. Now he's jumped ship to a different company, and he's going to take me, and he's going to get my business now. But that was because I trusted him. Yep. He's looked after me at Fonterra. He used to work at Fonterra when I was getting all my awards. He'd be the one presenting my awards. Then he moved to Riviana. He brought me on to do fruitcakes there. And then from there, he's moved to this new company. And soon I'm going to be giving him my dollars because I've trusted the whole 10 or 12 years that we've had in the past.
And how many times have we spoken about building trust and relational capital and how it comes back and forth, and when you're playing the long game, there's so many variations, of that come into play.
Well, this is the third company he's been associated with, and he still hasn't let me down yet. So it's him as a person. It's not him as the company values, but he's a good company man. Yeah. But his values is what gives me trust in him and what he's pushing, because I know he's not going to steer me wrong.
So what's really important to consider here, Adam, is quite often sales professionals will always tell you the hardest sale is the first one. The moment that you've sold someone on your product, your service, and you've delivered and they're comfortable with it, the subsequent sales are much easier. Why? Because you're not going from zero. You're not starting from from starting point, you've shifted the needle in trust much further forward. So you're starting at a higher level. So consequently, it gets easier and easier for people who are doing the right thing, looking after their clients and customers, to attract bigger orders, bigger contracts, bigger, more profitable deals, joint ventures that come your way. Because how many times people will say, how do you create these opportunities? Well, I'm leveraging on, as you said, in your case, many, many years of relationship with somebody that now either they get to reciprocate, they get to open up opportunities for you, and they're coming to you because they know who you are and what you stand for and that you're trustworthy.
Yep.
So that can't happen. And the people, I think this is one of the things that I see time and time again with people I work with, is they put up a post with the expectation you might have a high ticket item that you're selling, but people don't know you. And just because you've let people know that it's there, there's a big leap, there's a big gap between awareness and signing on the dotted line. And there's a lot that has to happen for people to have the confidence to, like you said, switch over your whole distribution or manufacturing. There's a process that has to happen. And that's what's really important, that you've established trust, and then you suddenly go, hey, do you also know we offer this, this, and this? Well, I never knew you did that. Let me give that a go. They're only going to do that if you've ticked the first box and got them permission to basically talk to them about the other stuff.
Well, this might be a bad mentality from me personally, but I like to have as little suppliers in my lists as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally select suppliers that can do multiple things for me. So if I'm going with a fruit supplier, you better be able to supply all my spices for me at a competitive price. Or my flour supplier is part of a bigger company that sells oils and chocolates and, you know, all the sweets that you think of, and fondants and all this. So that when I order flour, I get flour, but I can get butter and oil from the same distributor. And then if I go, hey, we're looking to make a mud cake or a brownie. Oh, we've got a brownie mix. All right, cool. Let's use yours first before I go and look at someone else. So I'll try theirs because I'm already associated, and they get a sale nice and easily because I'm already associated. So I just give them a call and go, can I get this? And they go, yep, done. So they've built the trust with me over so long now that I just call them and go, hey, can I get this? Yep, sure.
Yep.
Send it out in the next order. So as you said, the first part was a tough part, but afterwards, every other sale becomes super easy because I'm on a good relationship with these people.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's how it works. That's the process. That's how the world goes around. It's built on trust and foundational principles.
Yeah, and sometimes like I even call my suppliers and go, hey, I know you guys don't really do this, but do you know someone who does this, this, and this? And they're like, actually, we do that. And that's coming on your point. We might not, like, even me, as much as I'm in the food industry, I don't know what every supplier has. So I will call someone and go, hey, do you have this? Or do you know a company that does that? And they're like, we do it. All right, send me a sample.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And because we got that trust, it's just send it to me because I'll trust it until I don't, until you break the trust.
Exactly. That's the universal law that seems to work out that way. So to point number 6, carrying on a little bit from that, is they may not know what your company's reputation is. And so many times people may know of your company, they know what you stand for, but they don't know what your reputation is. And some great examples of how you build referrals and raving fans are by your reputation. So there's some great companies out there that have got a really strong reputation, right? Apple is one. They leverage on their raving fans. So it's a lot like they launch something, and even before people know anything about it, they're buying it, right? So that's their reputation. Their reputation will be sleek lines, design, all those kind of things. Zappos is another one. You know, the company that the late Tony Hsieh started. He passed away just recently. And so they had a reputation for shoes in that, like, they'd ship them out to you. If they weren't right, they'd take them back. Their reputation preceded them. It was meant to be an area that was great, basically a place to work, as well as the delivery of the services they had. So that was their reputation. And if people can trust that about your reputation, they're likely to want to work with you or be attracted to you.
Yeah, it's like the American Express Black Card. Have you seen the Black Cards? They come in metal.
Yeah.
And I think you pay $10,000 for the year, and then you need to spend $200,000 on the card every year. But there's stories of one guy calling they say once you're a black member, you can get anything. And they mean anything. Like one day some guy called up and goes, my kid has a project and they need sand from the Black Sea. So they went, got sand from the Black Sea and came to the house and dropped off this jar of sand. Like extreme stuff, but the reputation is there now. So now more people want to get this black card because, you know, they did that one gesture going, hey, we'll get you the sand from the Black Sea.
Yep.
But that's such a cool story that everyone's like, oh, now I'm going to go and spend $200,000 with American Express and pay that $10,000 starter fee or whatever it is. And then one day I want sand from the Black Sea. They probably have sand from anywhere that they just drop off. But I don't think you build trust by just.
Well, I'll give you an example, but but what you're saying is right in that's your reputation. That's what you're standing for.
Yeah.
There's a restaurant here in Melbourne called Sophia's. Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Sophia's, for anybody who doesn't know, is a long established restaurant chain. Started in a suburb, Camberwell.
Oh,
right. And then there's other sort of chains around that have extended, but the mothership is in Camberwell. Now, it's an experience to actually just go to this restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's on a strip in Camberwell, Hawthorne. It's a very busy strip. There's a lot of restaurants left, right, and whatever.
The junction?
Just where the junction is, a little bit just before the junction.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry for everybody who's outside of Melbourne has no idea what we're talking about, but
there's a massive part of Camberwell that's just shops and pubs and restaurants.
And they're busy. And then you get to Sophia's and it's a 1,000-seat restaurant, right? It's a 1,000-seat restaurant. Now, I've been there when it is flying. It is so busy. And you would expect with 1,000, it's not high-end sort of
It's a
food.
family
It's a family restaurant. But to seat 1,000, and I've been in there when they've had close to probably 1,000 people, just for dinner or lunch, or it's just insane. And the reputation for that is that they deliver meals quickly, and so big. Like you'll order a plate that's bigger than your head. Right? It's just phenomenal. And so I remember once I went to the restaurant. And one of my favourite meals is spaghetti marinara. And I went, okay, I'll order a spaghetti marinara and I'll order something else. And this was honestly the biggest plate I've ever seen in my whole life. It was like so overflowing, it was ridiculous. And I just went, holy smoke. And then we ordered a gelati, right? And the gelati was the biggest one I've ever seen in my whole life. Not like, it's like, it would honestly have been about 25 centimetres high.
Oh, wow.
One serve. And this was insane, right? But then someone had said to me, hey, listen, you want to go to Sophia's, it's going to be quick and you're a big eater. You're a growing lad there, Jim, go and eat that. And I did, and it lived up to that reputation. So much so that you'd go on a Saturday night and there'd be lines outside.
Yeah.
Right? So that is their reputation. And the meal was out in like 6 minutes. Like
so fast.
It's so fast, right? So that's basically, there's a consistency in what they stood for. They were clear on their section of the market. They were dealing with the families. But honestly, to experience that and to experience something like that, it's like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah, well, you touched on it a little bit earlier. In Melbourne, we're spoilt for opportunities with coffee. Coffee is like... It
Oxygen
is
here in Melbourne.
We
you can't get a good international roast anywhere. I'm only joking.
No, but to be honest, I've traveled to many countries, many continents, everything. I haven't been to the Americas yet, but our coffee, I think it's second to none. And in South Korea, they've got a bigger coffee culture. Every block has 3 coffee like franchises on it, but our coffee is still the roaster's best. But when I go overseas, I'll go to Starbucks because it's got that trusted reputation. I know that even if it's not a Melbourne coffee, it's pretty close to a Melbourne coffee. So I'm like, it's got that reputation that every city in the world that I go to, there's a Starbucks. I'm like, I'm in the door.
Yeah,
I don't have to risk having a bad cup of coffee, you know?
Well, that's consistency, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our next episode.
Yeah.
But that's what keeps you going back to someone again and again.
Yeah.
Right, is the consistency of that. So, but... if that's your reputation, and if your reputation, that's how Federal Express started. If it absolutely positively have to be there overnight, that
Yep.
was there. Bill Smith started that, and he started that as a reputation that they built on. So you can build that, whatever it is your reputation is, and stake your claim and live up to that. That builds trust.
There was a funny story about FedEx. It was, well, not funny, but there was an interesting story. One of the executives there was saying, how do we get like pretty much post boxes so that people can just drop off their post? They don't have to go into a post office. And how do we maximize our efficiencies that we don't have to always pick up every day?
Mm.
So what they did was they put a slot in the side of their trucks. So the front part was people walking in the street, dropped a parcel in the slot in the truck.
Wow.
That goes back to the depot.
Right.
So that they've already done just one trip. It's not two trips. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how genius
Clever.
is that? That's yeah. So every time you see a FedEx truck, apparently I haven't seen them, but like every time you see a FedEx truck in America, you can drop your parcel in there. And then it goes back to the depot, and that's probably how they do the overnight, because it goes back in and it comes back out.
You're basically eliminating the friction points.
Yeah.
In the distribution cycle.
Yeah.
So that's clever.
Yeah.
Very, very clever. All right. So that's leveraging, or that's the reputation, right? So that precedes you, that people can find out about you without you having to get out there and talk about it yourself, as all your raving fans are doing that.
Yeah.
So, and point number 7, this is a really important one. I'm not sure if you go about this, Adam, but I definitely do. A question that someone may have is, what if I'm not satisfied by your product and services? What do I do? And I've known many times that when I've dealt with someone, things may not have gone 100% to plan. Very much like your small product run with the cherries that you said, it may not handle that well. What will determine whether I work with someone again or not is not so much whether they made a mistake, but how they handle that. So if they look at, hey, there was an issue, a mistake, let us fix it up, let's take care of it, whatever, then I'm more inclined to trust them to want to do the right thing and give them the benefit of the doubt, or trust them to go, they're always focusing on delivering a quality product and service. So I want to deal with them. And that to me is a really important way and a metric that builds trust. Very much like, risk reversals quite often take the discomfort out of dealing with someone. So then you go, okay, great, I've got nothing to lose. I feel more comfortable, feel safe, I can trust them. So all these are strategies and processes that determine and establish trust people into you. So would you do the same thing as well as I mean, you did with the cherries, but is that how you normally do that as well?
Yeah, so generally with suppliers, what I do is I submit a purchase order, so it's written down. So I know that there's a track record of what I'm doing, and generally with purchase order, it's the amount, the price, and then what the subtotal and the taxes, everything's already calculated. So I'll send that off to my supplier. A couple of times I've got wrong orders and I've flipped around and go, hey, this is the purchase order. This is what I've received. What are we doing? And they go, all right, we'll be out tomorrow fixing it. And if it's, for instance, I ordered 72 bags of sugar. I got 27. Okay, this is not enough. I'm not going to last the week on this. They go, all right, we'll be out tomorrow with the remaining 45, I think it was. And they just did it. They go, sorry, it was our mistake. They took ownership.
Yep.
And I haven't had an issue since. But they took ownership. They said, sorry, it was our fault. We keyed it in as 27 instead of 72. We'll fix it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that built trust in the company that if there is something wrong, I had the paperwork to back myself up. So I knew it wasn't me. But they go, all right, it was our fault. See you later. Tomorrow it'll be there. And that's how a lot of my companies are. And I'm pretty open with my companies saying, if you stuff me around, I'll leave you.
Yeah.
Like it's my business is my business.
Yeah.
That's my priority. It's not keeping your business going. But if you deliver on everything that you say, I'll stay with you.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. So Adam, there are 7 points there that we've covered that work a long way or go a long way into establishing trust for you in your business relationship and your working relationship with people. So if you're going to review the elements that we talked about, there'd be some action steps. If you wanted to take the learnings out of this and really leverage them, one of the first steps you would look at is to review what we've covered and identify particular areas that we've covered that may serve you well in helping you to establish trust with the people you work with. So do they know enough about you, or do they know enough about your brand, or Have you established what your reputation is within your community and lived by that? So if there are particular areas that you feel that you could do better, that would be a great point, is to identify them. And number two, once you've identified those, what are 2 or 3 things that you could do in each of those categories that would solidify and build trust and establish trust, I should say, in that area that would help you to start moving the dynamic in the relationship that you're working with people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
Just a closing story on how building trust with your customers, it's crucial in the business. Like with my with my customer, I've been supplying them for 3 years, and first day of business this year on the 4th, I came back and I sent them an email going, "Hey guys, we've tried to avoid the price rise for as long as possible, but we got to put a price rise in." Sent them the email, got the thumbs up straight away. It was like, "Yep, well, that is, we know you haven't put the price up for a year and a half. So we know through a COVID year, through all this other fiascos, we know that you've been trying to be good to us. So we'll accept the price rise without even negotiating with it." And I go, "Well, that's great. That's how trust works. We've built that client. We've done as much as we possibly can to not push this price rise during a tough year. But now it's getting to a point where we've got to do that." And they've just accepted it because they're like, "We know you've tried your best to give us your best."
Yeah.
So
no, great. That's a great example. That's a great example of where you can use that in business, because you've got the runs on the board first. And so consequently, any action is reinforcing that trust that you already had. You've got a trust bank account, so to speak, that you're basically sort of trading from. So a great example to share, and probably a great example to close out our particular episode, this one. So in this episode, we talked about the establishing of trust. In our next episode, we're going to take the learnings from this and go to the next stage and level. So once you've got it, you can't have it, or you can't expect to have trust indefinitely, because there will always be little sub-tests and experiences that reinforce, either weaken or strengthen the trust that you have. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about how do you not only maintain it, but you grow it. So make sure you tune into that episode when it's released next week. So thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the podcast. As we close out, just a reminder to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and our extended Launch and Beyond community on these channels. If you've got any questions or comments you have about the podcast or anything you'd like support with, please reach out. Quite often your thoughts and questions are the same ones everybody else has, but no one's prepared to come forward and ask and share. Maybe they think that, hey, I may look silly, but you're not really. You're really helping to build the community, and you're helping to build the trust in everybody else in there as well. So this dialogue is going to have a massive ripple effect, and much greater than you may realize. So, and finally, if you are enjoying the episode and finding value in it, we'd be grateful if you go over to iTunes and leave us a review. This allows us to reach more people and have a bigger impact on our community. So from me, it's goodbye, and see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.